Holden, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, dude?
I appreciate you stopping by to have this conversation with me. First of all, you didn't have to do it at all. Second of all, I have got the craziest butterflies in my stomach right now.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, it's not as if you and I haven't had conversations before. And I'm always super enthusiastic to get your take on, I mean, everything from movies to the theology stuff. And I recently uploaded a video, and the reason why we're actually shooting this right now is because the last video I uploaded at time of recording this was a reaction video that I did to the Passion of the Christ. You obviously saw it, and it's had a mixed response
from like commenters on it.
Yes, which is understandable. But I was kind of, you had mentioned to me that you would be down and interested in doing a follow-up. So here's an opportunity to, how did you feel about the video? What are your thoughts on this thing?
I'm actually really quick. I'm trying to pull up some of the comments because I think that might be good. Atheist reacts to Passion.
So while you're doing that, I do want to give the folks a little bit of context and just say that I went through a little bit of a process with the inception of this video. It started out as a list of films that I could react to. What movies have I not seen that I can go through and watch that are iconic that I can do a reaction for? And The Passion was a one-off. And not only that, but I knew I was going to have an extreme visceral reaction to it just due to the nature of what the film is and the way that I react to graphic violence in movies just from past experience. It was shortly after making the video that this whole idea of, oh my goodness, this is a very sensitive topic, people might potentially be upset by this, came into my mind. And I remember asking you specifically, like, am I already treading in murky water? And the reaction has been mixed, but I understand why people would be offended.
Well, when you told me that you were working on it, we had the conversation of looking at it through like a filmmaking narrative perspective as a movie, aside from the religious aspect of it. My only thing was, and maybe this is just me being naive, I thought with your history of horror and the gore, that we've talked about, because we watched plenty of horror movies and have delved into them. I actually thought that from a narrative storytelling perspective, filmmaking perspective, you actually would have really liked it.
Okay.
Now, you did talk about some of the cinematography and stuff and how you liked all that, but just the sort of gore porn, I guess, if you will, didn't do it for you. And so I guess I was hoping you would have liked it, I guess, a little bit more from the narrative perspective, but that's okay. So let's so you have the storytelling perspective, the filmmaking perspective, then you have that religious kind of side, and anything to do with religion, Jesus, even among Christians, disagree vehemently about it. So I did give you that just that kind of heads up. I have delved into that territory before, but not as like a warning or telling you not to do it, but just this is the territory that comes with
what
it.
I might be getting into. Absolutely. Yeah. And I appreciate your perspective. Like I said, I wasn't exactly sure what the conversation was going to be. And part of me, I've had a chance to reflect on it. And when I talked to you, I had an intention of trying to handle it from a more delicate touch, but then by the time I cut out a big section of the introduction because I wanted to keep it light. I wanted to keep it more focused on being funny than being very heavy. And you're right. I mean, when I go back and I look at it, I'm like, how much value did it really add? Because there are elements of it from a filmmaking perspective that are quite impressive. I did mention the cinematography. I think it's, beautiful attention to detail, and the period setting looks really good. Yeah. The performances are all good. It's just that I feel, I viscerally felt, I believe, what I was supposed to feel from the film, albeit a little bit more profanely than maybe other people would have felt it. But I think it was successful in what it meant to do.
Yeah, I think one of the big things too is like for Christians or even Jewish people, this is a part of history, I guess. This is not a fictional story. So I think in a way it would be like in, I don't know, in 50 years or 100 years or whatever, there's a new movie about the Twin Towers, and we're joking about it, I guess, in that sense. Or, well, since that was, I guess, more historical, maybe something that's like George Washington. I don't know, just something like that. And so that's why you get Christians that are very, very defensive, about that type of property. Whereas I know you, and I can take a joke, it doesn't bother me as much. But you get those people who are, this is my Lord and Savior. This is this is what he did for me. And you're joking about it, So from that perspective, like, I get it. I get sharing that belief, but at the same time, Jesus quite clearly has pretty thick skin and probably doesn't need me to defend every little phrase that somebody has. I think he can take it.
To your point, I do believe that there were a few people that saw the titling of it in itself almost as an affront to religion. And all of that stuff was put in after the fact, because I don't even talk about theology throughout the video. I never ridicule Christianity. I really do have some of my favorite people in my life are Christians. Yes, I do have, my own specific views on it. And I guess that I look at the YouTube channel as an extension of myself, right? And
yeah.
I thought that there was a video that I would watch in there, but then afterwards, like you said, this is sacred to some people. So and they are valid to feel the way that they do. So I put these little buffers in place, like a disclaimer at the beginning and atheist in the title. That way I wasn't baiting, switching somebody into coming and watching and just say, hey, this is a reaction to the Passion of the Christ. Sure. And they come and see it. And then I'm cursing and doing these things. It was almost like, hey, Christians, I see you, you're valid. Don't take this the wrong way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe though, by doing that, I open myself up to more criticism.
Yeah. I think it's a mixture of all those things. You know me, and I can look at a movie as a movie, and I see the Passion. I can kind of consciously kind of go in and out of suspending disbelief and, oh, that's Jim Caviezel and a lot of makeup. I have no problem doing that. And I know that some people that are kind of outside of it, just more maybe the casual audience, it's harder because movies feel so freaking real, especially now. But I'm wondering what type of like camera lens they're using in like certain shots. You know what I mean? So
yes.
The actual story itself, I mean, it is to Christians, a literal thing that happened, and it was a horrible thing that happened. And it is because of that event. I mean, the Passion, that's why they made a movie about that. It was such a significant thing. And, there's that little teaser at the end where Jesus, rises again for Easter. So it is, some Christians take that very, very seriously.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I thought it was kind of like a symphony, because I very much start off dismissive of the thing, like at first I'm just like, oh, this is going to be lame and boring. And it builds to a crescendo of me just getting more and more just emotionally invested in it. So yeah, again, I think, there are certainly merits to it. I think, and I might have mentioned it to you briefly, but maybe not gone into it in detail. When I watch horror movies, there's usually some sort of catharsis, whether it be something like Saw, where the jigsaw killer has some sort of reason for doing what he's doing, sure, or whether it be Jason Voorhees getting vengeance on the camp counselors for letting him drown as a child, or whatever the thing is. It's like you're normally taught to have a little bit of dislike for the characters who get treated the worst in horror films.
Yeah.
And to see a movie where we never see anything of the protagonist other than just the suffering, it makes it, I feel like it made it difficult to care about the character any more or less than I would about any character that was being physically degraded like that.
Yeah. Another thing about the Passion too, it's not a complete story. Like it, there's this sense that the audience knows kind of where we're at in the placement. It'd be like starting a movie, starting with Star Wars Episode 6 or something, so the actual story, then they kind of did some stuff with like flashbacks and showed Jesus and Mary and some of the iconic moments from the Bible where he's with the disciples. And But overall, yeah, there you don't get like an introduction to like Jesus really in the movie. He's just already at the Garden of Gethsemane, and he's already freaking out about what's about to happen, and then it's just kind of downhill from there, with that little bit of happiness at the end where he comes back, briefly. But the movie pulls you down, man. It's dreadful, and anyway.
No, I agree with you 100%, and I don't know. It's difficult because I believe that everybody comes into any viewing experience with their own bias that was created by the life experience that they've had. And I don't know that it's impossible for me to say, did I view that movie objectively? Just as it's impossible for me to say, did I view Godzilla versus Kong objectively? It's like, I don't know that I don't know that we as human beings are even capable of truly being objective.
True objective, yeah. Especially with something like this, because our past have such a foundation of the way we feel about certain things. How do you feel? I'm just looking through some of your comments now. How do you feel like the reception, like of those negative comments? Like what? I'm trying to find one specifically, but what did it say, and what was it, I guess, saying about you?
I wanted to actually, as many negative comments as there were, and there weren't many. Most of the people in the comment section were just like nice Christians saying nice things, and showing a lot more grace in the comment section than I did in the video. I mean, there's no question about that.
I gotta tell you, man, there were some really funny lines where you were like, "You've never seen the 12 disciples like this before." Oh my gosh, I'd be dying laughing. I love that type of stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I got to keep a Christian verbiage here, but he's not crucifix freaking around.
That was BS. And I'm always going to go for the lowbrow jokes. And then afterwards, listening to these really insightful comments, it's like, man, I just wasn't approaching it from that angle. I wasn't showing it a reverence that many people feel that it deserved. But I think what stuck with me the most is just this idea that people would look at the title, look at the disclaimer at the beginning, have a clear perspective of the angle that I'm coming from, and then choose to watch the video and then condemn me for it, when I would never go to a religious creator's channel and try to discredit them or tell them they were wrong or the kind of content they were doing was wrong,
Yeah, I've dealt with many types of believers and non-believers on my channel, depending on the type of content that I make. You got one here too, so congratulations. It's this one. It's always all in caps, no punctuation at all. I hope you turn to Christ and see the wonderful part of Christ, just in bold. There's always that type of stuff. I get a lot of people that just copy and paste things. So, as a non-Christian, not involved in any type of church, for the most part, I'm guessing growing up, I don't know if you've ever been to church or whatever, but your perspective of Christians, I guess, is something that I'm really curious about, because I had that part where I was kind of involved more like in the evangelical community. Kind of broke from that. I have a lot more liberal views now, while still kind of retaining that faith aspect as well. And so I can be very cynical towards Christians as a Christian myself. And you've seen that side of me. And there's also some times where I've been very Chris Pratt is a great example, where I'm like, I think that they're treating him absolutely poorly for just saying that he's a Christian, So I really try to go case by case basis. But I guess my question, all that to say, whenever you see people that just post like, accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, like, I wonder if they think that's the first time you've ever heard that before, so what is your general perspective, I guess, of Christians? Has it changed at all? I mean, just that. How do you feel about Christians in general?
Growing up where we did, which is on the Gulf Coast in Florida, we are in a very predominantly Christian area. I grew up Southern Baptist, went to Sunday school and church field trips and lock-ins, and until I was in probably late middle school, and I saw my life experience led me down a different path, and I never really had judgments against Christians. I have critiques of organized religion, whether it be Christianity or whether it be Islam or whatever it is. I think that, we've seen how it can be used as a tool against people. However, I am okay with the people proselytizing. To me, it doesn't bother me, but exactly what you said is kind of how I feel, is this idea that they think that I've never been presented with this information before, or that I've never heard the line before. And I don't think they understand it. And it doesn't bother me that much, but it's just a little diminutive of my experience to think that as a nearly 40-year-old person that I haven't taken time to critically assess faith in my belief system,
Yeah. One of my biggest issues, I think, with kind of American evangelical Christianity is this sort of quantity over quality. They just want to shove certain verses of the Bible or tracts to as many people as possible. But I think that's dismissive of the way Christ kind of called us to be. And I kind of more focus on just one, just try and focus on just one person and loving that person the way that Christ loves you as you claim to be a Christian, So I think Christianity, American evangelical Christianity, has sort of devolved into this sort of salesman type approach. They want to make a sale and they want to convert a Christian. They want to convert somebody. And I'm against that. I am against that type of mentality. I don't think that there's any value to it. In a lot of churches, they'll do an altar call, as you are aware, that kind of at the end of the service, they'll play the soft music and they'll say, people come up, if the Lord's touched your heart tonight, come up here and be saved. They do that. Wow. So powerful. Church is over and everyone's going back to the parking lots, and it's just business as usual. Sometimes they'll have those people go into this little side room for, follow up, and that's cool, I guess. But it's all, I just hate the quantity over quality aspect of it. I want, I want that. If you're going to convert, I want it to be a real, I don't know. I want it to be, it's such a personal choice.
Like an awakening. Yeah. I get that. That's actually a really interesting perspective. And, to wrap it up, because I know we don't have an eternity to spend on this, nor do you guys probably want to spend an eternity listening to me talk about this. But I've seen Christianity move mountains for people. I've seen it turn people's lives around. People that just kind of had no direction. They were, whether they be on drugs, whether they just kind of be lost, floundering around, and then they find this very, divine purpose to them. And I've seen people start businesses and just really get back on the right path for that. So it's one of those things where I am empathetic, and like you said, about case to case basis, I look at people and try to find the things that bring us together. This video probably wasn't made for everyone. I do think there's an audience out there, people like myself, and I even believe maybe people like you that would think it was interesting to watch something that is so heavily rooted in something like faith from a completely outsider perspective.
Yeah. I'm even reading a comment now that's saying, excuse me, I have my little soda there. I'm reading a comment of yours right now that says, I don't know how anyone could say the crucifixion of Jesus is meant to entertain the viewer. So, that's another perspective too. should this movie have even been made? Movies are meant to entertain in one way or another. I think, it's, and then there's obviously the jokey one. I wouldn't even bother. Book adaptations always suck. So, that's a good point too. They're, I think this is one that it just kind of comes down to the individual. People hate that. I always say a lot of the times it's kind of a case by case, person by person. I think people like a unilateral, it is right or it is wrong. And reality is that's not always the case. So
makes things easy though.
Yeah, I'm glad you gave it a shot. I'm sorry you didn't like it. It's not one of my top 10 favorite movies ever. I just thought that you would have enjoyed it.
Now after, in hindsight, after the conversation, after the video, I'm very glad I watched it.
Yeah.
We watched a movie last week over at Matt's house that I didn't necessarily love, but that doesn't mean that I don't always love the experience. So yeah, I'm glad I did. And I'm sure there will be other ones on the way that probably won't be near as hot button as that one. So we'll see how it performs. Right now, it's top 10 of my videos I've ever made. So
really,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
I'm not opposed to doing some hot button topics from time to time. I kind of pick and choose,
Yeah.
And we have pretty open conversations. We talked in Jojo Rabbit. There was a lot of political, religious stuff that we touched on, and I think, I think having a friendship like ours, or Matt has even outright told me, is like, I'd much rather listen to you about Christianity than just like a person on the street corner or a person that's trying to sell me. That's how I view it, as them trying to sell you religion or sell you Christianity.
Yes.
Because we can have conversation. Because I'll be the first to admit there's a lot in Christianity, at least in organized Christianity, that I disagree with drastically. I think it's anti-biblical even. But yeah, I like talking about history. I like talking philosophy, theology, and I think that's important. I think it's important to be open-minded. It led me to God, and it has led you to more atheistic views. And I'm glad that we can have those conversations.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And there is value in that. And I think if everybody could just kind of come across the line on the little things that are that where we draw lines in the sand and just say, hey, we might have that one thing that we don't agree with. Maybe it's an important thing, but then there's so many things that we do. And I think that conversation and being open to other people's perspectives will only ever enrich your life. And yeah, Holden, you and I have had many conversations. They always go super great. So I appreciate you doing it, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you talking back with me. And it's through those conversations that kind of made me, be able to perceive from other perspectives as well. So that's important. I can't be like, I'm all right and you're all wrong. I think that's a horrible approach, and it's not one I even ascribe to. So yeah, here I am anyway, constantly learning, constantly trying to be a better person, better Christian, better whatever. So
all right, guys, we would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments section. Make sure to light that up. Let's carry on the conversation. And if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, take just a second to click that thumbs up button down there. It really helps out. And also, you could subscribe, and that would be rad. That way you can stay up to date with all of the terrible content. But if you want to really help me out, you can share this video on any of your social media platforms. That would be super swell. Check out the Patreon page. Link, as always, is down in the description. And until next time, and on behalf of both of us, be terrible.